good people? How are we doing? Thanks for being here. We've got it's not sleepless in Seattle, it's issues in Seattle. Yeah. Police department. You know, since the whole Chop Chaz thing, that thing just went wildly sideways for Seattle police. Seattle police just got hammered on. Had the whole thing with Carmen Best. She was our police chief, female police chief. She was black. Thought that was perfect. And then when the city council decided, well, you know what? We think we're going to defund the police and your salary is going to go from here to here. Yeah, your salary is going to go down. And she said, nope, I'm out. I've had just about enough of all I can take from you folks out there. And then she went and took a job at what? I don't know, was it NBC or CNBC or something like that? Police chief to media consultant. It was one of those moves. It was one of those moves. And so then we had Adrian Diaz, interim chief Adrian Diaz. I said that for like 2 years because he was literally interim chief for 2 years. Yeah, everybody was looking through all the folks in the police department in Seattle, and they're going, yeah, who can we get up in here? Who wants to be police chief? Nobody wants to be police chief of Seattle, right? I mean, it's like Portland, it's like Chicago. You want to step up to that job? Not really. How about this new police chief that they're going to have to find? How about that? Yeah, because Mayor Bruce Harrell, he basically took Adrian Diaz, our current chief, off. Last night, Adrian Diaz cleaned out his desk, and today they've got a news conference at 1 o'clock. All right, we're looking for a new police chief. I mean, it was just last week or the week before they decided to, city council is absolutely scrambling for more cops because you got a bunch of moderate people on the new Seattle City Council, and they're scrambling for cops. They know that we're behind hundreds and hundreds of cops, and Seattle just it doesn't have enough cops to make public safety go, and they're forcing all their folks to do overtime to make all this work, and that's not a long-term plan that you can make go. And so what you've got going on is you've got the council, pushing for salaries over 100,000, which they got, so they're all ready to recruit. They're already they've got 15 applications coming in per day. That doesn't amount to a lot because majority of them all fall out. Like less than 5%, I think the applications that Seattle gets actually come to fruition. But you got a situation where it's rah, 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 let's go recruit. And then you've got this beleaguered leadership in Seattle where Adrian Diaz, since he has been in office, he's been accused of sexual harassment, discrimination. I've read a 45-minute exit statement by a police officer, a female police officer, and she accused Adrian Diaz of much of the same. It was a scathing exit statement that she made when she was leaving the police force. It was just hardcore. You're like, oh, this isn't good. And now you've got like 8 different individuals from the police force that are suing Adrian Diaz and the police force. Yeah. And then you've got that whole federal oversight thing. And then the oversight thing got discontinued because the judge didn't like what the city's oversight process was. So you've just got all this crazy stuff going on. Meanwhile, Seattle's got some crime issues of its own. It's got some homeless issues. It's got some drug issues. It's got some criminal activity issues. Like any big city that defunded the police and just kind of let things run rampant. Absolutely run rampant. But you know what? Let's take a peek at some of what we've got going on here. I'm going to watch some video. This is a story that basically broke last night, and 1 o'clock today is a news conference. But I wanted to do a quick live stream because I think it's worth mentioning, and we'll see how it goes. But bottom line is Adrian Diaz has too many lawsuits against him. Discrimination lawsuits, even though he is Hispanic himself, and you can't blame Carmen Best for ushering in this era of discrimination because, black woman, and there was no mention of that. But at the time, it was just, let's hammer on the cops and let's defund police and let's defund the chief. Just a bunch of crazy stuff always happening in Seattle. Let's get this guy going. Can you see him? All right. Yep.
Well, Mary, there is an active outside investigation amidst these complaints that circle around the police chief and his top lieutenant, John O'Neill. And these women have stepped forward because they say the chief cannot, and they have attacked the now multiple accusers.
And it's those ones that are.
So these are activists who are supporting Chief Diaz. Interesting.
Are disgruntled.
They are three women who are often outspoken.
These are people that we do not need in the department.
Carmen Martinez, Reverend Harriet Walden, and Victoria Beach all work in some capacity with Seattle Police. Walden is a co-chair of the Community Police Commission.
It's a mutiny.
Who says racism is driving allegations against Chief Adrian Diaz.
These women are serial complainers.
Four women, all current employees, have accused Diaz and Top Lieutenant John O'Neill of sexual harassment, discrimination, and a hostile work environment. This week, a captain, Eric Greening, accused Diaz in a lawsuit of retaliation and discriminatory practices against women. Samir Singla is representing the four women, including Jean Gopin, who is prominently featured in police recruiting videos.
You have 8 people who have filed lawsuits or complaints against this chief in the department in the last year. Those people are people of color, they're African Americans, they're women, and their claims are the ones that need to be validated and scrutinized.
How do you balance that she is part of the recruiting effort, she's a woman of color who's making these accusations?
You know, that doesn't change my opinion at all, because she makes, I think, what I'm trying to say, forget color and everything else. I know this group of people.
When asked if they believe the city should allow for the investigation to play out.
No, it would not. No. And you know what? No, it would not, because this is a mutiny, and you need to understand this.
A mutiny.
An attorney for Diaz told me late this afternoon he was not involved with today's press conference. Both the Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell and Seattle Council President Sarah Nelson have told Como News in recent interviews that they are taking these allegations seriously and are concerned. That's the story live tonight in Seattle. I'm Chris Daniels, Como News.
There's that word. I have great concern. I have concern for what's going on. It's like, okay, yeah, well, now you're without a police chief. Now we're going to have another interim police chief. For who knows how long, right? Let's watch a few more here. Listen to this answer. Deep dive. No sound. Yep.
If you will.
This seems more like damage control.
Sorry, folks.
Samir Singla is representing the accusers and argues that Harrell was forced. Eric, Harrell stopped short of expressing confidence in the chief, saying he has hired outside counsel to investigate those claims before acting. Do you still have confidence in this, Chief?
Well, for me, I have to afford any of my employees due process.
Bruce Harrell is Seattle's mayor.
Well, I constantly evaluate everyone, and the chief is no exception. And so, yes, we're evaluating. I've had faith in him in the past. He was confirmed unanimously by the city council. But the allegations that we're dealing with right now certainly have gotten my administration's attention, and we're going to act accordingly.
This is Harrell says he's hired an outside.
Things got too hot. Things got too hot. You can only, in this position, you can only have so many instances of, hey now, hey, what? Okay, all right. And by that, I mean incoming lawsuits. You can't have that on an ongoing basis. And enough people have made these allegations, have made these statements, and now you've got lawsuits. Now, you might want to say, well, but those are all just disgruntled employees. Yeah, but it's also coming from, a black dude who's been on the force for a long time. It's coming from 4 women. My thought is there's got to be something there. Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? I mean, you know what I mean? Are these people just whining about not getting what they want, what they, feel are deserved to them, whether it's, sexual discrimination or whatever it is? They're getting hammered on and their needs are not being met. There's enough of them where you're like, okay, at the very least, you got to take this seriously. And from the time Chief Diaz has been in office, he has had these rumors of this stuff going around and people claiming that he is just in it for the politics. He is in it to win it. And in policing, that may or may not work. To run a big city police department, what a terrible job that must be, because you're never going to please anybody, right? You're never going to please anybody. You can please some people some of the time, but not all the people all the time, right? So, what we've got going on is just kind of one more thing in Seattle's saga of its policing. Seattle was given awards for professionalism during the Obama administration. Can you believe that? Here we are now. I mean, it's nutty kind of how this has gone. And I have read through multiple of the lawsuits. This is a lawsuit here by Captain Eric Greening. He comes down on Seattle Police and Chief Diaz pretty darn hard. He's pretty specific about being overlooked, and the only people that are on the community patrol are officers of color and women. There's no white guys, right? Some people are saying that this is a massive push to finally get a white chief back in office. Is that true? I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? There's so much of this stuff that's being just kind of thrown out there that you don't really know what the deal is. But bottom line is there's so many lawsuits flying around. And I think this last one that came last week was kind of just, okay, yep, we can't deal with this anymore. When you've got that troubled employee or that, whatever it is, somebody that that you just don't want to deal with them after a while, because every time they come into your life, they're bringing with them this energy of, all right, that's not really something I want to deal with. You're a nice guy and I like you and you've got a good skill set, but I don't want to deal with this nonsense anymore. And that's where I think Bruce Harrell is coming from. The video, we'll see if we can find the video. I got enough, this is enough of a breaking story that the news clips are kind of coming in hot and heavy. There was a clip where Sarah Nelson from the city council, she's the president of the city council, the interview was asking her, can you trust Chief Diaz to do his job? And she literally paused. She paused for, I think it was 34 seconds. And that should tell you right there. All right, she's getting her head together. I respect that. But to have to, you either trust the guy or you don't. And she had a great statement, and it was basically, much of the same from Mayor Harrell, which is, he can do his job, but when you've got this kind of stuff going on, maybe it's indicative of we've got a bigger problem than we actually think. My other thought is at some point in time, you got to let these cops just do their job. If you got a city that's got issues with crime, you got to get rid of all this other stuff. All these lawsuits got to go, right? You can't have that constantly going. And then you got to give the cops the ability to just go out and do their job. Yeah, including the female cops. And I think what a lot of this is, some of the statements I was reading is as these young ladies were being, coming up in the force, and some of the comments they made were, I was being introduced to the crew, and my captain had me stand up, and I can't remember who it was. My captain had me stand up, and she's one female in a group of who knows how many men, and her superior said, "Hey guys, don't worry, she's married," implying they all knew that she was cute, right? So, you got stuff like that going on. Okay. But again, these are cops. These aren't necessarily, the world's 100%, everything is perfectly said and done. But then do you have a culture of that is ingrained in the Seattle police force? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah. Being a police officer, being a female police officer, Seattle's goal is by 2030 to have 30% of the police force be female. I mean, is that a good idea? I don't know. I mean, I always think you just want some badasses out there, whatever that looks like, right? So this whole diversity, equity, inclusion, I don't place a lot of credence in that, but you've also got to have a police force that's willing to work together, right? Or some simile thereof. So you've got another, $5 million claim accusing the chief of sexual harassment and discrimination, saying they're basically being looked over for other positions. Let's take a quick read at this. So a month ago, Harrell said that he was evaluating everyone with the Seattle Police Department. Our mayor was evaluating everyone, including the chief, amid a string of claims alleging sexual harassment and sexual and racial discrimination from department leaders. Recent turmoil within the Seattle Police Department has made headlines as Diaz has been accused by multiple employees in lawsuits and tort claims. So, after a while, you just can't have that on this level. Seattle's got so many distractions already. We're going 10 different ways from Sunday, nowhere, right? Tried to get through CHOP. I mean, what a debacle that was. We're on the world stages, just allowing a bunch of nonsense to happen. And then the police department, is involved with that. And then we got defund the police, and then we got the police chief quitting. Then we got, Diaz coming in, and then almost immediately the complaints started happening with Diaz. And they happened as he was going into office as interim chief. There were people making complaints then. Are these people that are serial complainers? I don't know. But there's enough groups of them where I'm kind of like, there's probably something going on there. So you've got multiple employees. There's 8 different people are suing. There's multiple different lawsuits. Last month, 4 female employees stepped forward to accuse the chief and his top lieutenant, John O'Neill, of a pattern of harassment, discrimination, and a hostile work environment. They filed a $5 million claim against the city. When I read some of these stories, not specifically on policing, but in other businesses and other industries, it's like, is that really harassment? Are you taking that a little too far? But some of the stuff I've read with the Seattle Police Department and the female police officers, I wouldn't want to deal with that. If I was a woman, I wouldn't want to deal with that in the workforce. But again, it's also policing, right? It's a hardcore deal. I wouldn't want to do it, no matter which way, female, male, female, whatever. In late April, Harrell said that he hired an independent investigator to review the claims made against Diaz and O'Neill, who leads the media relations unit. Assistant Chief Tyrone Davis was put on administrative leave last Tuesday, I think it was, May 23rd, adding to the internal chaos at the Seattle Police Department. In a message to staff, Diaz said the move was a precautionary step. I have great concern. Therefore, this is a precautionary step due to the Office of Police Accountability allegations. It's unclear the nature of the Office of Police Accountability's complaint. You've just got these things just zooming by. And the mayor said, all right, that's enough. You're going to have you step down. Now, Chief Diaz has not been let go from the Seattle Police Department, but he has stepped down from his role. He's cleared out his office as the chief's office, and he's being moved to the Special Projects, I believe it's called. I was like, Special Projects, is that just to get him out of the limelight? Is that just to kind of derail him? Let's put him on the sidelines. It's like your fifth man that just isn't cutting it in the game. And so it's like, all right, let's put the sixth man in, get that guy off, put him at the end of the bench. He's a distraction. Davis, one of 5 assistant chiefs, according to the Seattle Police Department's website, has overseen special operations and joined the Seattle Police Department in 1999. His department includes SWAT, hostage negotiations, arson bomb squad, harbor unit, and K-9 unit. He is the highest ranking African-American officer in the department, and he is on administrative leave. It's not funny, but it's also kind of like we're still stuck with this whole ridiculous defund the police thing and everything that came out of that. Seattle is desperately trying to make a move to a little bit more moderate, but can't get past this kind of nonsense where you've got, all right, so if you're an incoming police officer, would you want to touch a police department? No matter what the pay is. I mean, I think it's $106,000 is base pay now for Seattle police officers, up from, I'm totally going off memory here, up from like $86,000. Seattle Police Department was ranked 15th in the state in pay before they made this move to, I think it was $106,000. So, if you're trying to recruit officers, because we need 400, 500, 600 new officers in Seattle to keep it safe. Same thing down in Portland. You're just, you've got a situation where you just don't have enough cops, not enough cops. And then you've got your number one man and a handful of his subordinates that are high ranking, all just being taken out. Yeah. Going to need you to clear out your office. We're going to put you on. Leave you over there. That's a nasty lawsuit you got going there. What happened, Junior? It's kind of all come at once. Davis was promoted by Diaz and replaced Eric Greening, who recently filed suit against the city of Seattle, and Diaz alleging he was retaliated against for reporting on discrimination within the department and the appearance of segregation. Greening also claimed that community outreach was being done solely by female and BIPOC officers. All right. Okay. Maybe it is. Maybe these allegations are 100% true. We're going to find out. I think we'll find out kind of one way or the other. And then you'll be like, okay. All right. I think there's more going on than we are led to believe. And I think a lot of what's happening at the police department is just, you got to put the lid on that stuff, right? You can't have all this stuff just flying around. Last week, supporters of Diaz, it was a handful of supporters. Let's be honest, they're more activists than supporters. They were the ones in the video that we saw. And they're basically saying, these people are serial complainers. So supporters of Diaz said accusations of sexual harassment and discrimination are from disgruntled employees who are serial complainers. How do they know that? How do they know that? How do they know that they're serial complainers? What if they're just police officers and they're just saying their thing? Yeah, who knows, right? So many different opposing stories that are just flying around right now. It's pretty wild. Yep, so there's that one. I don't think there was much more in there. But the lawsuit from Eric Greening, it breaks down a lot of what he perceives to be discriminatory practices. Are they true? Yeah. I mean, you've got this whole notion, right? I think old school used to have a lot of discrimination. And now people know, they've been taught, they've had to go through classes. They know they're not supposed to discriminate. And I don't think there's any outward notion of it. But if you start to look hard, maybe you find some. But it's interesting, again, that all the discrimination, the sexual discrimination, I can see that way more than I can just the, racial discrimination. Because I think police department's a tough place for a lady. It just is. I mean, that's just got to be. That's got to be tough. Not taken away from it's hard on the male cops as well either. But, where physical brute force oftentimes is brought into play, whether you can stand up for yourself or you're just going to get run over. It's a tough gig. It's a hard gig. I wouldn't want to do it. I don't think I know anybody that, nobody in my life said, I want to be a cop because that's going to be great. No, it's a tough gig. And then, the workforce, yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see, right? To see what's actually going on. But the allegations, the accusations, they're pretty wild and they've been stacking up. It's been like this low key stack up. So the suit claims such alleged retaliatory actions have included rejecting Greening's applications for the position of deputy chief and assistant chief, and abolishing the collective policing bureau, which Greening led. All right, so he's got a personal axe to grind. Okay. Demoting him from assistant chief to the rank of captain, a nearly $27,000 cut in pay. Maybe he deserved it. You know what I mean? Maybe, hey, yeah, you got this, and this going on. That's why you're getting this demotion. Before it was abolished, the CPB, that is the Collective Policing Bureau, comprised of the Community Outreach and Youth Violence Prevention Units, the Executive Protection Detail. You got a whole bunch of stuff in there. One of the first things that Diaz had to do was try and get the budget back on track. And so he put the budget into patrol officers and took away and, kind of shut down a lot of the specialty, like the sexual assault for new cases. All right, we're not investigating that anymore. Imagine, your wife, your girlfriend, your sister gets sexually assaulted in Seattle, and police officer basically tells you, yeah, that really sucks, but we're not going to be able to investigate. We've got no unit here, because the sexual assault stuff takes so much manpower to get a conviction. You've just got to go, a lot of time has to be spent. All kinds of stuff has to be done on that specific case, that it was kind of one of those units that got the whack. And I believe it's back up and running now. But, when you had to defund the police thing and you're shy on cops, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. I thought Chief Diaz did a good job making those decisions, whether at the same time he was simultaneously, discriminating and, talking to the ladies in the way he shouldn't. Don't know. Yeah, I'm not a cop over there. All I can do is kind of read all the news stories and kind of look in from the outside. But there's enough stuff going on where I think there's some validity to at least some of it. In September of 2021, meeting with Chief Diaz, Mr. Greening expressed his belief that Seattle Police Department was discriminating against female and BIPOC officers in terms and conditions of their employment by routinely assigning them to the community outreach deal. Mr. Greening expressed concern about the responsibility for community outreach being placed solely on female and BIPOC officers, about the appearance of segregation within the Seattle Police Department. I mean, there's some pretty serious allegations here. And about cultural taxation, which is the extra work expected and often demanded of members of the underrepresented or marginalized groups when it comes to equity, diversity, and inclusion rules. Man, I wish that stuff just didn't exist. I understand why it does. I understand what it does. But to me, it just gives the opportunity for people to play into that. And I'm not saying that's what's happening. White commanders, civilian executive directors, and assistant chiefs, he noted, were being absolved of any responsibility to connect with community members in a non-enforcement capacity. Well, at one point in time, you didn't want to put a white cop on the street in Seattle. Hell no. No. Because they're a target. Because all of a sudden, when we had that whole George Floyd thing, you know, when you had the Summer of Love, being white and a cop made you a, you know, an absolute target. And not saying that the, you know, BIPOC community members of the police force weren't a target either, but had this, you know, forward facing thing where, okay, well, the community has spoken and here's what they want. They want to defund the police. They don't want anything to do with white cops because all white cops, you know, are bad and, you know, they kill people. So we can't have that. So, you know, you've got some of these storylines that it's hard to know whether you're coming or going. And, you know, but Adrian Diaz is going. Chief Diaz, former Chief Diaz, is going out the door. So, yeah, these lawsuits just whizzing by are, you know, enough for the mayor to say, you know what, homie, don't play that game anymore. You're out of here. Now, the next task is going to be coming up with somebody who wants to run it. And I was watching a Fox segment this morning, and they were talking about, let's see if I can, yeah, no, I don't think that's it. But they were talking about one of, I think it's one of the lieutenants who happens to be white. He would be a very good choice. He's been in the department long time. And he would be, you know, he's probably in the running. I don't remember his name. But all I could think of is a white male leading the Seattle police force. That's not going to work out well. That is not going to work out well, right? Because we know that Seattle, liberal city, had some liberal leadership. They want to kowtow to those far left extremists, defund police, support terrorist Hamas, you know, all that stuff. We want to kowtow to them and putting a white, you know, police chief in place. You know, what's that going to look like? How's that going to work? Excuse me. I don't think that will. So we've got $10 million claim by that police officer. Got another claim from, you know, a longtime police officer. I think she's in her 60s. She's filed a lawsuit. I mean, the story just goes on and on and on. But is this happening at police departments all across the nation? Now, you see of some of the lawsuits and you see of some of the oversight coming out of that federal oversight, but it doesn't seem, and I read a lot of news, it doesn't seem like there's as many incidents as Seattle has. Seattle just seems to be one of those communities that, for whatever reason right now, it's a problem. This is a problem. And whether you believe that these, you know, police officers are being discriminated against, whether it's, you know, sexual discrimination, whatever, or their ability to, you know, have a fair shake as far as their policing goes, whatever it is, whether you believe them or you believe Chief Diaz and his supporters who say, well, no, those people are just serial complainers. Whatever it's doing, it is rocking the ability of Seattle to recruit and to actively recruit, you know, hey, what's the stability of Seattle policing like? Oh, yeah, didn't I just see in the media? Didn't that ridiculous guy on News for Reasonable People talk about all the shenanigans going on? Yeah, he said there were some shenanigans, but they haven't been proven. And, you know, you've got these police officers coming up with a laundry list of stuff, and it all kind of sounds about the same. You know, who knows right from wrong? And unless you're there, I don't think you would be able to say that. But I've seen enough from police officers stating they didn't like Chief Diaz. They thought he played a lot of politics, and he probably did. That's how you become police chief, right? You don't get there by being a nice guy, right? Nice guys finish last. And he played the political game, and he, you know, ended up on top for a couple of years. And now he's out of there. And so, you know, from a stability standpoint, this is terrible. This is terrible. Because, you know, do you want to come into a police department where you don't know who your chief is going to be? Maybe you do. Maybe you're just like, you know what? I like Seattle. I like what's going on. I like to be in the middle of it. I like to be in the middle of transition. Give me a job there. Screw that whole Bellevue thing. One of the interesting things that one of the female police officers said in her, it was kind of a poll, was she was trying to figure out, all right, do I go to become a police officer in Bellevue, where I'm from, where I'm sitting, or do I go to Seattle? And her mindset was, at least Seattle has a couple of female cops at that time when she came on board. Bellevue didn't have any. None. Zero. So her thinking was, you know what? There's at least a couple of other females over there. She can run with that pack. And it doesn't sound like it's worked out that well. I'm pretty sure Bellevue has at least a handful now of female police officers. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've seen them. You know what I mean? I just never pay attention. It's like, is that a guy or a girl? Which one is it? What are we dealing with here? It just, hey, it's a cop. It's a cop car. They're doing their whole cop car thing. I've been following the Tiffany Henyard, Mayor Tiff in Village of Dalton. She basically runs her police officers as if they are her personal bodyguards. She, in her 2 years of payouts, she's paid them something like $900,000 in security detail, takes a couple of cops with her all the time. And those police officers, they seem like they're basically paid private henchmen, right? And they're just coming down on the residents of Dalton. And if you haven't followed that news story, you got Mayor Tiff. Last night, they're supposed to have she's the mayor of Dalton, a city 22 miles south of Chicago. And she's also a supervisor of a township, the township that it's located in, the city or the village of Dalton is located in, and about 8 other cities, and then another 12 cities that have part of their town, part of their village within the township. It's kind of one of those areas where you've got villages and townships, and it's something I'm not real familiar with, but I'm learning. But if you had the police officers of Dalton doing what they do here in Seattle, it would be, there would be lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And there's complaints already. But last night, they were supposed to have a meeting where Mayor Tahoe Tiffany, because she rolls around in a Tahoe, Mayor Tiff was going to have a meeting to get a vote on whether her salary as a supervisor could go up from, I think, $276 to $306. And the village of Dalton has somewhere around a $4 to $7 million deficit. So she's asking for some more money as an employee over at the village or at the township. That story just has legs for absolute days. This one here on Seattle, I think you're going to have a new interim chief picked within a month or two. The last time it took a while because I think nobody wanted to step up and take this position. It's a terrible position. Yeah, you get paid, a few $100,000? But man, everybody hates you and whatever decisions you make are just terrible. And you got to deal with, back in the day, you had to deal with the city council that was just full of a bunch of knuckleheads, Shama Sawant being the primary one. I mean, these people are far left, they are nut jobs. Absolute, that's how Seattle got where it is with leadership with those kind of people. And so you've gone through this path where you've got some more moderates on the city council. And I think normal people are struggling to try and become part of something in Seattle. Meanwhile, policing has just been all over the place, right? You don't have enough cops. You don't have consistent leadership. Leadership you do have is just getting sued left, right, and center. And whether Adrian Diaz is, 100% guilty or 100% innocent, either which way, all of this imbalance, all of this instability isn't good for the city. It's not good for its citizens. But it's also probably one of those things that got to go through. And, it's like the fallout when you've got an employee, whether it's, rightfully, firing them or not, once they're gone, you got to deal with the fallout. You know, their friends are going to hate you, and you know, you're going to lose some of those friends, even though they're, you know, it's an employee, and it's going to rile up some of their friends that are still employees. You know, you just got that thing to go through. But in most employee situations, you know, you don't have a police force that went through CHOP. You don't have a police force that was forced to give up their East Precinct. I mean, imagine being and it's the same thing as what happened in, you know, George Floyd territory. Same exact thing. You got a situation where, you know, leadership just said, oh, we're giving up the police precinct, and we're just going to let it. And it just got burned to the ground, right? I mean, just, you know, Seattle Police Station wasn't burned to the ground, but giving it up to a bunch of loser left-wing nut jobs. You know, who wants to have that on their resume? Were you there during CHOP? I was. Absolutely terrible. Horrible. Been talking nonstop here for a little while. So this is happening in Seattle. We'll know more at 1 o'clock, and it should be entertaining. We're not going to know a ton. We're just going to hear what everybody's going to, you know, well, it's been with a lot of thought and consideration. You know, I had to look at the situation 18 ways from yesterday, and I think I've made the right decision. We hope that the people of Seattle support us and during this difficult time. And I don't know how long it'll take the mayor to name an interim police chief. But the whole deal is just, it's not good. It's not good. It's just more instability in Seattle. And to me, it's because this is what you get with this kind of leadership. You've had some pretty crappy leadership in Seattle. You've had leadership that is absolutely dumped on the police force. And so now you've got, you know, this influence from the police force itself. What's going to happen? Who knows? Who knows, right? And it'll probably get brushed off. All right, we got the new guy in, and he's just going to do a great job. We're happy to have him. He's been here for 45 straight years. He's going to do the best job possible. So introducing to you, Interim Chief Johnson, whatever. And he's just going to be the best ever. Whoever you bring in, they're going to get hammered on, because this is Seattle and this is policing. Nobody wants to be a cop in Seattle, effectively, right? You're still not, same thing with Portland, you're still not on the net positive in a big way on recruits. You're just not. Even with 15 a day applications coming in, you know, that isn't transferring into, hey, we are catching up with the number of police officers. So, you know, even though we've got this salary bumped up and we're going full tilt, and the city council in Seattle they're in the process of streamlining the bringing in recruiting process of more cops. With stuff like this, can you blame, if you had the choice, if you're a cop, if you had the choice of working in Seattle or working somewhere else where you get maybe paid a little bit less, but housing cost is way less, and you don't have all the gyrations of this police department, just all right, who's my chief going to be? What's the working situation going to be? Are they sexually discriminating against people? What's the deal there? Got to do my research. Or you just go to this other police force where they don't have any of that nonsense. And they didn't defund the police. And they didn't have a city council that absolutely took a gigantic poop on policing in general. City of Seattle, this is what you get. This is what you deserve. Because you voted in all this nonsense. You voted in these leaders that were comfortable doing all this. And to me, all right, you know, this is kind of another byproduct of that, where you've got just, you know, people that are disgruntled, and now they're like, F it, we're going to file a lawsuit. F those guys. And that's kind of where we sit. So 1 o'clock, there will be a live stream in Seattle. Be an interesting one to tune into if you got nothing better to do, and stick it on the background. I'm going to be watching it. Should be entertaining. But yeah, just more shenanigans in Seattle, right? I mean, not to say that shenanigans aren't happening everywhere, but we seem to get our fair share here. Fair share. Yeah. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I know it was a last-minute live stream, but it just came up last night, so I had to do it. Thanks again for being here, and I'll catch up with you in the next segment. For those of you on the live stream portion, see what you guys are saying. Seattle isn't as bad as Portland. Some things about Seattle are worse, I think, but there's a lot of stuff. Just the street conditions in Seattle are way better than Portland. Leadership in Seattle is one huge dumpster fire. Man, it has been. Yeah. Seattle is not Portland yet. 100% agree with that, Jeff. Yeah. Yet. You've got city council members who are trying to make that Seattle Seagulls leadership. Do we need some of the Seagulls to just step up and become cops? Yeah. That makes no sense at all, does it? Yeah, the Seagulls. Normal people are for the taking. Yeah. God bless America. You know what? If you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. God bless America. You know what? You go with that. We'll have to see. All right, guys, I'm going to go. I've got other stuff I've got to put up for you. My last comment. Jeff, you posted Seattle is dying. If you haven't seen a history of Seattle and how we got to where we are here, Seattle is dying. That was done by Como. That's an excellent, what is that, like an hour or something? It's documentary. Yeah. And I think that stuff in that documentary, it explains a lot of how we got here, the ridiculousness that is policing in Seattle. I'll leave you with that. Thanks again for being here. I'll catch up with you guys in the next one. Bye for now.